Good morning, all. Yes. Yes. I am Dr. Varmadiyal Singh. I'm the chair of this committee, of the Joint Select Committee on the Local Authorities, Service Commissions, and Statutory Authorities, including the THA. Welcome to the 30th meeting of this Joint Select Committee. And I also would like to give a welcome to members of the listening and viewing audience who are invited to send their comments via Parliament's various social media platforms, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. On this occasion, our committee, we have the pleasure of meeting and the various corporations who were invited here this morning. And again, welcome again to the representatives of the Ministry of Rural Development and Local Government. So welcome to members of the Siparia Regional Corporation, Sawa Laventille Regional Corporation, Penal Debe Regional Corporation, and Daegu Martine Regional Corporation. At this stage, I would like to invite the members of the Ministry of Rural Development and Local Government to introduce themselves. Yeah.
Good morning, Chair, members of the committee. I am Jennifer Daniel, the Permanent Secretary of the Ministry.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Raymond Sipol. I am the Acting Deputy Permanent Secretary at the Ministry of Rural Development and Local Government.
Good morning, Chair, members. Esther Pilgrim-Sones, Director of Finance and Accounts Acting at the Ministry of Rural Development and Local Government.
Will the members of the Daegu Martine Regional Corporation introduce themselves?
Pleasant good morning to you, Mr. Chairman, and a good morning to other members of the committee. I am Shivastri Ramawad, Chief Executive Officer, acting for the Daegu Martine Regional Corporation. Thank you.
Pleasant good morning to the...
1 minute, please. Could you deactivate your mic, please?
What's up?
Thank you. So, thanks.
Pleasant good morning to the Chairman and other distinguished members of the panel. My name is Susan Hong, and I'm the Chairman of the Daegu Martine Regional Corporation. It's a pleasure to be here this morning. Thanks.
Good morning to the Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Ken Calise. I'm the Financial Assistant of the Daegu Martine Regional Corporation.
Good morning, Chairman, Vice Chair, members of the committee, and my colleagues. My name is Ravindranath Gangu, CEO, Siparia.
Sure.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Vice Chairman, and all the other members. Dr. Glenn Ramadas Singh, Chairman of Siparia Regional.
Would Sawa Laventille also introduce themselves? Yeah. Sorry. For Siparia, okay.
Good morning, Chairman, members of the committee. I am Kelly Bates, Financial Officer of the Siparia Regional Corporation.
Yeah. Could I call now on Sawa Laventille Regional Corporation to introduce themselves?
Good morning, Chair, members of the committee, colleagues. I am Diane Larkin, Chief Executive Officer of the Sawa Laventille Regional Corporation.
Good morning, Chairman and other members of the Joint Select Committee. I am Anthony Roberts, the Chairman of the San Juan Laventille Regional Corporation.
Sure.
Good morning, Chairman and other members of the committee. I am Gabrielle Jones of the San Juan Laventille Regional Corporation, Corporate Secretary.
Would members of the Penal Debe Regional Corporation introduce themselves?
Good morning, Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Motilal Ram Singh, Chief Executive Officer, Penal Debe Regional Corporation.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. I'm Alan Sami, Chairman of the Penal Debe Regional Corporation.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. I am Nirala Rampasad, Corporate Secretary from the Penal Debe Regional Corporation.
Well, I give a warm welcome to you all, and I would like to invite the committee members to introduce themselves, starting with my Vice Chair.
Thank you. Good morning, all. Ramona Ramdial, Vice Chair.
Good morning and welcome. Darrell Smith, Member.
Good morning, Nigel Lefreitas, Member.
Good morning to all. Esmond Ford, Member.
Good morning. My name is Khadija Amin, Opposition Senator, Member of the committee.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this session. I am Jennifer Batiste Primus, and I am a member of this committee.
To those present, I would like to remind the persons present and also the members of the public that the objectives of this inquiry is to examine the role of the line ministry and executive management of municipal corporations in promoting and facilitating accountability and transparency in the operations of municipal corporations. Also to assess the internal control systems within the municipal corporations, and lastly, to examine the proposed local government reform initiatives associated with the management of finances with municipal corporations. I would now like to invite the following officials to make brief opening remarks, not to exceed more than 2 minutes because we are now pressed for time. And I would like to start with Mrs. Jennifer Daniel, Permanent Secretary, the Ministry of Rural Development and Local Government.
Good morning again, Chair and members. It is my pleasure and the pleasure of my team, I speak on their behalf, to be here this morning to participate in this exercise that, as was mentioned on the last occasion, the fruit of it is for improvement in the system. So we are committed to that, and because of that, we engage and we really value the opportunity for this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Daniel. It's a pleasure to have you amongst us again. Yeah. Will Ms. Susan Hung, Chairman of Daegu Martin Regional Corporation, give any opening remarks?
Thank you, Chairman. For me, again, as I said before, it's a pleasure to be here as you examine the management and operation process of our corporation. We look forward to make a better place and a better place for our residents. Thank you.
Would Alderman Dr. Glenn Ramadasing, Chairman of Siparia Regional Corporation.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. We are very happy to have engaged the attention of your distinguished committee. It is very important that we look at the operations of local government as it is, as we work towards local government reform. I can tell you that the $69 million that is spent on the 58,000 burgesses may not be the best value for money that we can get in the present system with a heavily unionized environment, with bureaucratic public service applications and procedures to source funds, with weak, poor, untimely, and insufficient releases from the Ministry of Finance and then to the Ministry of Local Government. We are beleaguered with institutional problems, and we are really calling out, yearning out for reform. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ramadasing. And I'd like to hear from Alderman Anthony Roberts, Chairman of the Sawa Laventille Regional Corporation.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I want to join with my colleagues to express gratitude for the opportunity to discuss some important matters as they relate to local government. So we look forward to the deliberations at this committee.
Thank you. And with Dr. Alan Sami, Chairman of the Penal-Debe Regional Corporation.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We too in Penal-Debe would like to share with you our joys and our sorrows. I'm particularly concerned with local government reform and the added burdens, particularly financial burdens, if the reform in fact does materialize in the short term, because the current burdens are overbearing as it is. I'm not sure how we can handle additional burdens. So I look forward to sharing and to hearing the views of the members and how we can help to resolve some of these issues. Thank you.
Well, I hear the plight of certain members. I hear the cries out there, the challenges, and I'm saying that at least I'm hoping today we can get an insight into the operations of the various corporation challenges faced. We have actually had the hearings before with other corporations and have identified certain issues. So it's really to get an idea what is happening in the corporations. Is there any sort of problems in terms of financial mismanagement? Is there any sort of levels that people may be looking at the corporations and say it's not running adequately? So it's to get ideas how you run, how you can run in a transparent manner, efficient manner. And also the ministry here who gives the oversight will be giving us an input to see what is the best practices that should be adopted in the corporation. So it's to help us, to help you basically, we are here. So I would like to start here now that, we're going to have a periods of question, and most questions, I'm asking members please to ask the questions through the chair. And to remind you persons to activate your microphone when recognized by the chair and deactivate it once they have concluded their contributions. And for housekeeping rules, if you can please put your phones on silent. So I would like to start a line of questions to Daegu Martine Regional Corporation. Okay. We have gotten submissions from the various corporations, and in your submission from Daegu Martine had given us, in your submission you stated that your corporation has made regulations for the custody of money, passbooks, and checks. However, you failed to provide the committee with a copy of these regulations. Could you please explain why these regulations were not made available to the committee?
Thank you, Chair. At the Daegu Martine Regional Corporation, we've had a severe problem with the record keeping. However, not simply the record keeping, but the actual record management. And where the storage is concerned, there was a terrible water seepage in the building that compromised the records. When we were at the Orchid Drive? At Orchid Drive. At Orchid Drive, we have recently, we had moved to the new office now, and having done that, when we recognized that the records were compromised, we purchased 2 containers to store the records, but it was already had mold, and we are engaging the services of NALIS to correct that.
So in terms of any sort of accountability, we have no sort of records available at all, right?
At this time, sir, no.
No. Sorry. So the regulations, they were actually damaged?
They were damaged with the
destroyed?
water.
Huh?
With the water, yes, it was damaged.
Okay. All right.
Chairman, if
Yeah.
I may, the regulations is not a bulky document, right? So I'm wondering if you would have it on soft copy even, because the regulations it would be a document that you work with all the time at your corporation. So don't you have it soft copy anywhere at the corporation?
At this time, we were unable to retrieve it at this time. I'm sorry.
Chairman, through you, perhaps the Director of Finance and Accounts at the Ministry could provide some information, because regulations guide the corporations, and if a corporation does not have a copy to produce, it does not have a copy to follow, then I have serious concerns. So a document like this is something that should be lodged at the ministry, and perhaps the ministry could send over a copy?
So, Chair, member, first time I'm hearing of it, I'm unaware that they have regulation that was missing. So maybe after we could provide the information, we'll search the ministry and we'll provide the information, whether we have it at the ministry, whether it was forwarded to the ministry. But at this point in time, I'm unable to say whether the ministry has that record.
So in the meanwhile, what guides this corporation with regards to the custody of money, passbooks, checks, and so on? That should be governed by a regulation. What guides you?
It is the financial regulations of 1965. This is what would guide us. That is what we use at the moment.
Again, I'd like to address your response. You stated that the Council of Daegu Martin Regional Corporation has not outlined specific directives for improving internal controls and financial management. So given that Corporations Council has not issued any specific directives in this area, would it be accurate to say that the Council is happy with the checks and balances that are currently observed in the corporation?
Chairman, I cannot say that the corporation is happy with the checks and balances in the corporation. But we are hopeful that our records could be sanitized, and we will be able to go through those records and provide the answers that you want, probably in writing, to the committee.
Mr. Chairman, in any way any document was stated with regards to how far Daegu Martin Regional Corporation is with regards to their audits and financial statements? But if we can know when was the last audited financial report and administrative reports and so on. Yes, in terms of, based on the trend of questioning that has taken place so far and the information that have been provided to us, with regards to your financial statement and audited reports, when was the last year we would have had information on that from you?
That will be 2008.
2008?
Yes.
And is it as a result of the answers provided so far for the committee? Could we simply say that the reason or reasons for being 2008 is as a result of the information you have provided the committee with so far?
To a large extent. Mr. Chairman, through you. To a large extent, yes.
Chairman,
no, wait, hold on. Listen. 1 second, Mr. Chairman. Right. First of all, we are live on national television, right now, okay? And I just want to be clear, Mr. Chairman, 2008. And going forward, 2009, in order to come up to presently, where does it leave us? Where does it leave us? What Daegu Martin Regional Corporation have to say in going forward in getting that information when the auditors do come, or when your financial department decides to prepare these documents?
Through you, Mr. Chair. At present, the financial officer, of whom we recently got, has started to guide the process, and we have prepared in draft up to from 2012 to 2018 and 18. However, it's in draft, and the supplemental records are the ones that were compromised.
Chairman, I just want to ask, with regards to these documents that were compromised, you indicated that NALIS is assisting with the restoration of these documents. Is there a time frame by which you believe you would have substantial information that you could forward to the Parliament?
in approximately, through you, Chair, in approximately 4 months, we believe it should be sanitized.
You also stated that transactions are bundled and deposited together, making it difficult to match daily bank entries. That is page 5 of the response to question 11. I asked 2 questions. 1, what system has been implemented to ensure that documents are correctly filed and separated? And 2, in the absence of a cashier, who has been given the responsibility of managing the revenue collection system? So, I want to ask this other one.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, the entry or the data stated here with regards to the bundling of the receipts, it involves collection from the CMOH department where they receipts are collected and deposited directly into the bank. But many times what they do is that they don't identify what the payments are for, so that on the statement you see a bulk figure, and when you total the receipts you see a bulk figure, but you're unable to get a breakdown as to what those figures were paid for.
Chairman, something like this, a policy or system would have to be put in place by the financial officer. They have to guide the council on matters like these. We have you listed here as a financial assistant, and we did recognize in our last session that the finance officer in many of the corporations, the position is vacant. What is the situation with Daegu Martin with regards to a financial officer?
Financial officer was contracted to the Daegu Martin Corporation as of May last year. Yes. May
So you have
year.
one at this time?
Yes, yeah.
And Chairman, if you would allow. So, and your role will be financial assistant. Is that on the establishment?
No, I'm a contracted officer also.
So Daegu Martin created this position as financial assistant to boost the work of the financial officer?
Well, the thing is that for years, the Daegu Martin Corporation, I've been there for 5 years. The Daegu Martin Corporation had no financial officer during that period of time, for 5 years. So I was filling in at the point in time.
All right. And Chairman, I just want to ask the other corporations if they could indicate in terms of the presence of finance officer. Sawa Laventil, do you have a financial officer?
The answer is no, we don't. We don't have even capable staff to deal with the accounts of the organization.
Siparia? Right, we met her earlier. And Penal DB, do you have a finance officer?
Not at the moment.
When was the last time you had one?
November 7th, the person had resigned.
2018?
2018, sorry.
Thank you very much. Through you, Chair, and to the Daegu Martin Regional Corporation. In your submission, you outlined several instances of alleged financial crimes or financial improprieties which were perpetrated against the corporation. Could you care to explain and give us the information? How were these financial improprieties detected? Have you done investigations? Is there an audit report? Is it completed?
With regards to the fraudulent activities perpetrated against the corporation, right, we listed 6 items here. Number 1 is the collection of fees for burials. Somewhere along the line, I don't know when, The receipt books were given to the cemetery keeper, who is not an employee. So the corporation is now in the process of correcting that situation. Number two, there were 6 checks valued approximately $50,000 each that were removed from the pile by the then accountant in 2013 and paid to people who did not supply goods or services to the corporation. That matter is attracting the attention of the TTPS right now. 2013.
The investigations
is ongoing.
Okay.
Yes.
We'll need to liaise with the TTPS to find out.
Yes. Then you did mention Tent City shelter, where the emergency unit purchased a Tent City shelter, and the complete unit was not supplied. Somehow, the vendor was able to get the payment for the entire project, and he failed to supply all the units. There are a few items that were missing.
And this was when?
In 2016.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is this also another ongoing investigation?
This one, yeah. The vendor has proved to be a little elusive so far, but yes, the investigation on this is ongoing.
So you don't have any records of the vendor at the corporation in terms of?
Yeah, we have the vendors.
Yeah.
The problem is to find them.
Meaning, are they in Trinidad and Tobago? Have they left the country? No? And the police has no leads at this time?
Yeah, the matter is being investigated.
Okay, okay.
Chairman, when you make a purchase and the item is delivered to the corporation, some officer is responsible for checking the item to ensure that you receive what you paid for before payment is recommended. Some part of your investigation, perhaps not the police aspect, but your administrative investigation, should identify who was the officer who signed and collected something that wasn't in fact complete. Have you gone down that road? Have you identified the officer, and has there been any sanctions or anything against that person?
This entire Tent City emergency shelter system, what happened is that most of the items were imported from the United States. Somehow, the vendor convinced the corporation to advance him the money to pay for the items, right? And some of the items, when they arrived here, were not the correct items, so they were sent back and re-imported. We did not get all after that.
Is making advance payment, is that part of your practice, your procedure, or is it that the corporation broke their own rules?
Yeah. This was a special
and now
case.
paying the price?
This was a special case. I don't know the exact details more, but this case was a special case.
You see, for those of us who advocate for independence and for corporations, when we hear issues like these, it puts serious spokes in the wheel, eh? Because you have the authority now to do procurement, and the checks and balances, the accountability is important. But in this case, the corporation broke the rules, taxpayers' money gone down the drain, and now you're paying the price for it. So don't blame the vendor. The officers responsible is those who have to account.
Can I show
Mr. Chairman, I'm hearing the discourse, and I want to, bring in the permanent sec here, in terms of, I know this would be your second stint with us, right? So you were privy to some of the information we had at the first session with the other 4 municipalities that we had. And again, we have these 4 here. Well, we haven't really gone into the other 3 as yet. But so far, you know, we're hearing the same set of information. You know what I mean? The little details, which part we are seeing the urgent need for these financial positions to be put in place. You know what I mean? I heard the chairman from Separia Regional Corporation, I heard the chairman from Penal Debe about the burdens, the financial releases, the reform. But if those things are improved, we will still have these problems, you know. Reform tomorrow, reform next week, reform next month, we will still have these issues because the people who have to ensure that the reform works are you all. Us, we, the people. You know what I mean? So if it is the procedure have to be followed, the procedure have to be followed. Don't tell me the burden, don't tell me the Minister of Finance in releasing the money timely as the case may be. Probably it's good that you're not releasing it timely to ensure that we hold on to some of the money. You know what I mean, look at these three issues. Fees for burial, 50 checks, 50,000 by 6 checks. The vendors issue. And we could go into it. Mr. Chairman, I don't think we need to go into no more because we need to hear the other corporations to find out what happened in the other corporations. We just on Daegu Martin and the first half an hour going already. We in here Separia, we in here Daegu Martin, we in here San Juan Love until we near the others. You know what I mean? So, Mr. Chairman, I don't know what else to say. But we need to ensure that the financial officers in these organizations are in place. And we need to ensure, we have an ex-chairman, I'm a whole thing, we have also next colleague here from, who was at Daegu Martin. So we know, we could ask some direct questions, you know. Within this committee here, we have 3 persons on this committee that could ask some direct questions as to exactly where we are. And, you know what I mean, we need to get these financial officers, Madam PS. I know your hands may be probably tied because there's a whole procedure and how it's done. But still, when we get these financial officers, we need to get the positions down the line to ensure that the checks and balances are in place, to ensure that, and we follow the procedures.
Thank you kindly, Chairman. Before we move off the issue, through you, Mr. Chairman, I would like to direct this question to all of the corporations present here. We have been advised that Daegu Martin Regional Corporation has a financial officer. Penal Debe had a financial officer who resigned on the 7th of November. Separia has a financial officer. San Juan Laventil does not have a financial officer. Based on the response you would have sent to this committee, Madam P.S., that the corporation, that was based on a question I had raised when we met with the first set of corporations, whether or not the corporations have the authority to contract out, to bring in persons on contract, and also to contract out the preparation of their financial accounts. A study of all these documents revealed that none of the corporations are up to date. In some cases, you have accounting units staffed with only junior staff. I mean, we are in 2019. So I would like to ask all the corporations, one, if you have a financial officer on board. Those who don't have a financial officer on board, what is preventing you from bringing a financial officer on board? Because the corporation, we were advised by the PS, the corporation have the authority to engage in procuring those services. Why? What is responsible? We cannot in 2019 have accounting units that are not staffed by the required qualified personnel. It's not a parlor we run in here.
Well,
yeah. Could we start with any response from Siparia? Sure. Yeah.
You have one, but what I would say is that when we came in, we saw it as important because the accountant is part of the administration, not really overseeing all of the finances and the auditing functions and so on. And a person of this caliber was necessary. And there is a provision in the Act where you write the President of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. And we did, in fact, effect that by a motion, wrote the letter, and then lobbied the ministry to fill the position. I think that this helped us to get one very early in the game.
Well, I'm hoping the others could learn from you. So could I get a response from Sawa Laventille on this issue?
Thank you very much, Chair. I am extremely happy for these discussions. We, at this time, do not have a financial officer. We made an attempt to ask the ministry to provide us, since it is their responsibility to do so. We have not had any response to date. The council has asked the CEO to have discussions with the ministry so that we could make arrangements to acquire a financial officer, but that the ministry will assist us with the payment of that officer because funding will be a problem for us to be able to acquire the services of a financial officer. And that is where we have gotten.
Could the PS please respond to this
Certainly, Chair.
statement?
Coincidentally, the ad for the financial officer is in the newspaper today. The closing date is February the 24th. And just to add to what was shared on the last occasion, and it is brought out by what was shared by Penal DB's CEO, I wasn't even aware that the person assigned there. So in the information I had is that there were 4 positions vacant, but a 5th has been made vacant. And it may be helpful to hear, I don't know if the CEO is aware of the reasons or the reason for the person terminating, but it would be useful to hear what the reason was.
Penal DB, could you? Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have sat on on various panels to interview financial officers over the years. And always one of the problems we get is attracting sufficient numbers, and then when we do get people, some people leave, all right? One of the problems in the interview stops when the remuneration package is announced, yeah? And that is what turns off quite a lot of probably very competent persons. I'm not saying those who are here are not that competent. Then when you reach to when people reach and actually take up the job and they see the challenges, sometimes they may look to revert because they're very marketable. In my instance, I had a public officer who was who was assigned on the ground of public policy. So that person reverted to their substantive post within the public sector, right? And that's one of the problems that we have, really.
Can you say why your financial officer resigned?
Reverted. The officer had a substantive position in the wider public service, and they reverted to that position.
Is there a reason why that officer reverted?
No reason was preferred.
Okay.
is there any sort of some sort of, what I would like to say, disagreement among the officer members of, or what I'm saying, not a level of, cooperation or assistance meted out to these officers that could lead them to move away from this position?
If I speak to Penal Daegu, the Act is clear on who is the principal financial officer. That's the treasurer post. It's similar to the financial officer post. In the early days, there used to be some disagreement within the public sector, the public service officer and the financial officer. But I think that's something that needs to be sorted out, or had to be sorted out at the corporation level. All right? So, but when we look at some of the issues in the accounting, as is identified, some of the accounting departments, the work becomes very challenging. It's not as simple as it's made out to be. It's very challenging because accounts is not only the recording of the transactions. It's also dealing with Ministry of Finance through financial cash flow management, all the financial processes, right? Budgetary controls, a number of issues that encompasses that job. And that reinforces the need for having competent or qualified persons on board.
Chairman, through you, I just want to ask, has Penal Daegu made any effort to hire a financial officer or contract person to fill the position while the ministry does its necessary?
Yes, not a financial officer, but what we have done is we have retained on part-time basis two very experienced persons who would have worked both at the corporation levels, at accountant levels, and at the ministry, up to the level of accounting executives or auditors. So they are quite experienced. And what we have them doing is periodically residing in the accounting unit to assist desk by desk in order to get the systems operational and to ensure some level of compliance, some level of the system is implemented then.
One of the key roles of this financial officer is to advise the council on financial matters. Do these officers play that role, or do they simply assist in making things more efficient in the accounting department? Well,
all the reports, in the absence of the financial officer, all the reports that is required by the financial officer or the treasurer are presented to the council.
So then you as the CEO would take up the job of advising the council?
Well, in the absence of most, I mean, we have been doing that for years in a sense before we even had contracted officers. And I think one thing that is missing, one of the problems with the contracted officers, having contracted officers at all levels, is when the contracted officer's term of contract expires, you are left with a gap. So persons who are expiring very soon, most of those corporations will not have somebody, and now we are going into preparation of budgets, all right? So it's probably we could look at extension of terms and so on of those contracts.
Chairman, if I may, the role of the financial controller in the corporation, as with most of the chief officers, is primarily to advise the council and to advise the council on financial matters. It is a contract position at this time because the public service has not filled that position for more than 20 years since the start of Act 21 of 1990. And even though the chief executive officer is the chief accounting officer, the truth is that the treasurer of the council, to give financial advice to the council, it is a little different to the accounting and accounting for your spending and putting procedures in place. So the council would have a priority based on whatever they consider as urgent within their region, whatever direction they want to take their region in terms of development. And that strategic financial decision making is where the financial controller should come in. But the expectation that their financial officer should be bogged down, for want of another term, with administrative business and filling in for a clerk one that missing, and all these missing and vacant positions within your corporation is defeating the purpose of a financial officer to advise the council to take it forward and to be part of holistic development within your region. So I think corporations, because they are so strapped for staff, even when they do have a person filling in as a financial officer, you're really getting lost in the mud.
If you would permit me, while we have the CEO of ParlView on his verbal legs, the two persons that you said, Mr. CEO, that were retained, they were former public officers at the level of accounting executives. Are these the same two persons that you informed the committee that have been hired on a part-time basis to provide in-house training to the accounting staff?
Yes, yeah.
So they were brought on board for the sole purpose of training the accounting staff?
Training, advising, working along with them, yes.
So then, but you just shared with member Amina that you had two persons who, well, are picking up the slack for the financial officer. That can't be so.
These are the said two persons. We only have two persons on board, and they reside within the accounting unit. One of the problems we have is the lack of experienced staff.
No, the point that I'm making, the information that came before this committee through your submission is that two persons were retained on part-time to provide in-house training to the accounting staff. But you just shared with member Amina that you have two persons at the level of accounting executive sort of picking up the slack from that was left by the financial officer. I'm saying that is not in sync with the information you shared with this committee.
No, I do not have anybody at accounting executive level, but I said they were former accounting executives in the public sector, retired at that position, and retired at, as auditor.
No, the point is that you said that these two people are literally taking up the slack of the financial officer who would have retired on the 7th of November. That's what you just shared with member Amin. But I'm pointing out in the information that came before this committee that you submitted said that these two part-time persons were brought on board for the specific purpose of in-house training to the accounting staff. So if they were brought on board to provide training for the accounting staff, their role could not have been to take up the slack of the financial officer. That's the point that I'm making.
Right. Thank you. Through the chair, no, they have not taken up the position of the financial officer.
No, I said take up the slack.
All right. They have not taken up the slack of the financial officer.
That's what you just told member Amin.
No, I'll retract that statement.
Okay.
What they do, and let me explain the training issue is, it's rather than a formal training,
No, I don't have any problem with that. What you're trying to do is make use of what you have. I was just pointing out that there was an anomaly in the information you gave and what you gave to.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, Chair, just going back to my question of fraudulent activities at the regional corporations. Now, in your submission, Sour-Laventil Corporation, you cited that there have been allegations of overcharging of fees and payment of fees for work that was not done. And could you care to elaborate with respect to these submissions you made on fraudulent activities?
Through the chair, we did not make that submission.
but this is what I have.
No, it's perfect.
Yeah,
Okay.
this is what I have here on my document. The legal size document. Have fraudulent activities been perpetrated by external parties during the past 5 years? And the Sour Laventille Corporation, from your submission, yes, allegations of overcharging of fees and payment of fees for work that was not done. And then we move on to Daegu Martin Regional under that question also, where you have an attempt was made to cash a missing check in the sum of $4,700,000. So let's start with Sour Laventille.
Okay, through the chair, I think you have it mixed up. We are the one with the missing check with the 4.7 million.
Okay. All right, so the print was done. Right, so you care to elaborate on that? Is that an ongoing investigation at this time?
Yes, it is an ongoing investigation. The fraud squad is investigating that matter right now.
And when did this happen?
It happened in August of 2017, August 14, 2017.
All right, okay. And to Daegu Martin Regional Corp, your allegations of overcharging of fees and payment of fees for work that was not done. Well, I guess you explained that earlier. So thank you very much for that, yes.
I want to ask as a follow-up
Sure.
to Member Ramdale, the Vice Chairman's question. What systems have you, both at Daegu Martin and Sour, put in place since the discovery of these fraudulent activities to prevent future occurrence? And what plans are there to develop and implement anti-fraud measures at the corporation? So Daegu Martin first.
Thank you. At the Daegu Martin Regional Corporation, I first must say that we do not have a fraud policy, and that would be taken to council. That matter has to be taken to council to be drafted and for approval. We have in each instant, each issue as it comes up, we have tried to first understand how it came up. And in the case of the cemetery, it was a recent discovery. So we are now trying to find out the exact way the actual cemetery keeper works. And that would have happened just last week. So it's a matter.
Maybe the chairman could guide, because the council is responsible for policies. Have you had the opportunity to consider any policies with regards to anti-fraud measures?
While the council did have some discussions, we worked with our financial person to see how best we could come up with some kind of policy to put in place. But our accountant one is yet to advise us on how to draft this piece of policy so that to prevent something like this happening again.
And from San Juan Laventille, any moves towards putting a policy in place?
Sorry. In terms of policy, the council did resolve to do a total restructuring of the accounts division and ensuring that we include the new procurement legislation to guide us as we proceed. Secondly, we have resolved to establish our own internal audit department. Right, so we have done that. We established as well an asset management system, which will assist us in computerizing the operations of the different departments of the corporation, and that is ongoing at this time. We have resolved to do a forensic audit in other departments throughout the corporation, because we still believe that some nonsense is taking place at different levels of the corporation. And the CEO at this time is putting the necessary things in place to have someone on board to do the forensic audit on behalf of the corporation. We resolved as well to change the method of salary payment. At the corporation, we now have a system as is referred to as the Easy Pay, and we have written the ministry on our intention to move to the iGov system. We have been in conversation with the Ministry of Finance as well on that matter. The issue of the collection of fees and so from, let's say, market and other services that we provide, we resolved and wrote to the ministry to allow us to have a sort of link system with the possibility at some point in time to have a whole cashier system. Because you see, what we have now is a market clerk who would be moving through the market with a basket and a police walking behind to collect fees from persons. And that system is so archaic so that it is easier if persons could use the links machine to be able to make their payments to the corporation. So
could you, yes, sir.
Sorry, Chairman, permit me. Have the corporations considered perhaps an annual payment for market fees instead of this?
Well, we considered, as a matter of fact, we have done our market bylaws, and we are trying to guide the vendors to make monthly payments, right? Monthly payments instead of this weekly payments that they now make at the market.
Do you have a time frame that you want, you're looking at to implement this link system?
Well, we are actually waiting on the ministry at this time. We have not gotten a response from the ministry, but we did send the resolution of council to the ministry, and it is quite some time. It is possibly about a year now. It's about a year now we have sent that information, but we are pressing forward to make sure that these things fall in place to modernize the operation of the corporation.
Will the PS give us some guidance on the, what it may take to help implement this?
Chairman, the matter was referred to the ministry, I'm actually seeing in September, and the matter has to be approved by the Ministry of Finance. It has been forwarded to the Ministry of Finance, to Control of Accounts specifically. So the ministry will follow up with the Control of Accounts, but it is out of our hands. The decision, the approval has to come from Controller.
Does the other corporations have any similar, plans to implement such a link system?
Chairman, at the Daegu Regional Corporation, the CMOH department uses the links machine to collect payments. We too would like to get the links machine into the office where other payments could be made outside of the CMOH payments.
Mr. Chairman, likewise, Siparia, we are going to follow the Daegu Martin route and go and seek that facility.
So we could look forward and seeing this. Yeah. Looking at best practice and implementing something that could work across the board. And Penal David, do you have any intention of pursuing that?
Yeah. Well, and so we have a cashier's unit set up, and the link machine is one of the facilities that we have to provide that service to the burgesses. So people could come into the corporation and pay by links as well.
But you still collect cash at the
We still collect cash at the market, but all cash is deposited in night safe as soon as it is collected.
Chairman, the question was whether or not fraudulent activities have been perpetrated by external parties during the past 5 years. I would like to flip the script and ask all corporations present whether or not any fraudulent activities have been perpetrated internally by any employees of the corporations.
Could we start with Laventille?
The answer is yes. That is a matter that has been aired in the public and is now receiving the attention of the court. Persons were arrested. And I think it is joint, both internal and external. All right. I cannot say for the matter that is referred to earlier on with the check, because that investigation is taking place, but we believe that there was some kind of internal involvement as well. So those two matters we have brought to your attention.
Could I get a comment from Siparia?
No, over the last 5 years, no fraudulent activities were perpetrated by any external party or even internal parties. That has been reported.
Daegu Martin, Regional.
Yes, Chairman, we did have the one case where 6 checks were cashed by persons who were prepared by the then accountant and cashed by persons who did not supply goods or services to the corporation.
Just one thing. In your submission, you had also where 300 workers, laborers were hired, and that is before a committee. Was that perpetrated internally?
Yes, it was.
What is the status of that case?
The matter is being handled by the Professional Standards Bureau. Interviews were done, and you know, we are waiting their next move.
And just one other instance where you had 12 truck batteries stolen from the transport yard. Is that also under police investigation?
6 truck batteries. Yes, that matter is being investigated by the municipal police right now. That's a recent one.
Okay, very good. Thanks.
Could you give me some clarification about the context these 300 workers were hired for?
Mr. Chair, my information is that around 2016, employment slips, I believe some of them were blank, were somehow reached out to members of the public. As I said, it's being investigated right now, so much of the details we won't have. And they came into the employee.
CEO, for how long were these 300 laborers employed for at the corporation, and how much monies were expended in terms of salaries?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to ask Mr. Khalist if I can, please, for that.
These workers have been in the employ of the corporation from 2016. Right? The letters started being issued around October 2016. I don't have a figure with me as to how much was paid so far, but
how long were they employed for? You said from October 2016 to?
The letters were issued until further notice.
Mr. Chair, I also recall, I think during 2010 to 2013, the chairman's gold chain was stolen and ammunition and guns were stolen. Was that also solved by the police?
I can't answer to that. I heard about that incident. Yeah.
Through you, Chairman, I know that was investigated by the TNT, the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, but I since then haven't heard anything from the police on that matter.
When you hire workers, do you hire them on a temporary basis or a permanent basis? Because I'm trying to figure the 300 workers. Is it that you may have hired them and you have to break the contract and hire them again? Was there any sort of how come they were allowed to have a contract for so long undetermined?
Therein lies the problem, Mr. Chair. That is where the error occurred, and there is no cutoff date.
Yeah, public.
Yeah.
What committee is before committee?
Yeah.
Professionals.
So it's before committee now, it's being investigated how that slip-up occurred. Good.
Yes, and the officer involved was transferred to other corporation, and the matter, as we said earlier, is before the Professional Standard Bureau.
Well, I guess, would the other corporation be warned about this individual? Oh.
Is the individual still working with you all? Or
Transferred.
Transferred to where?
Yeah.
Would you care to share which corporation that individual was transferred to? Because, I mean, we need to put in some mechanisms to...
Head office, Kent House.
Chairman, I heard the financial officer said that, no, but for this particular one, that you don't have a figure. Could we get the figure in writing, please? Yeah. Please ensure that the figure that
Certainly.
For that 300 batch of workers, if you could get, what it costs the taxpayers.
For the period of time?
Yeah, for the period of time.
I'd like to call, sorry. Penal DB, I think we need a response from them. Yes, except penal. Penal DB. Penal DB.
Chairman, to my knowledge, there are no cases of fraud, whether external or internal, but the practice is that if there is any instance of fraud, suspected fraud, it will be referred to the police. What we do have, though, and I mean this is generally for everybody, is given technology now, people might tend to copy a letterhead and utilize that to go and engage with other members of the public. We had one case like that where some land issue with two parties and they use a building inspector signature. That is before the fraud squad.
But, well, in your submission, you had listed, your submission listed procedures that were implemented to detect inadequacies and misappropriation of funds. That is page 9 of a response to question 7. Could you specify the major systems that have been documented and state how often these systems are actually reviewed? And also, what factors prompted the closer monitoring of the garbage collection system? Yeah.
Right. Chairman, what we did, we utilized the services of some, we have periodically university staff and students, and also OJTs. And we did some walkthrough of most of the systems within the corporation. So we could have assessed where there may be weaknesses and try to put some systems in place to address that, right? I gave some examples there. You have an establishment of a single stores, the separation of the store's functions of receipt, custody, and issue from usage and payment functions. That is Suppliers and contractors' invoices are submitted and pre-checked in accounts rather than go to the department. That enables us to keep a better track on our cash and make sure that everything is in order before it goes for certification. Where there are weaknesses in technical expertise, we would have engaged experienced professionals to assist there. With respect to the garbage collection, we have been attempting to enforce the terms of and conditions of the contract. All right, and several measures have been put in place. We have had numerous meetings with the contractors, and we seek to enforce their side of they have them enforce their responsibility. It's a challenge. It is a challenge, given that it's on the media that we had some issues in ParlView areas and so. And those issues would have arisen simply because this contract was in existence since 2012. It's now 2019, and there are different demands by members of the public that causes us to take action. And when we do, the other side of the story is that the contractor will now abide by what their terms and conditions are too. So in this case, we had an issue of if you want me to go on anything? Yeah. So I'll just give an example. In the ParlView district, the contractor used to start pretty early to finish. What happens is people were insisting that they were starting too early, the trucks come in too early. When the contractor started at the appointed time, now you are complaining that the garbage, at peak hours, the garbage truck is working now. So it causes a traffic congestion. The size of the truck, contractor has to make average four trips to the dump. By the time when they leave late, when they get coming back down, they meet all the traffic. So the trucks were going into late hours of completion. And some of those things were what caused the problem. We have since resolved that, right?
Right. And as we're on the garbage sanitation issue, so how would you rate the whole garbage scenario within your region? How would you rate it? Very good, good, satisfactory, how would you rate it? And I'd like to get a comment from all of the particular chairman also. And as you're on the floor also, same time, you said that the contract has since, we no longer working on a contract, right? No. So it's on a month-to-month basis? How it works presently?
It's on a month-to-month basis now. When the contract expired, we would have written the permanent secretary, and they would have advised that the contracts to be extended on a month-to-month on the same terms and conditions. Right. And therein lies some of the problems.
Yes. And you're saying that more demands are being made on behalf of the public, right?
That's
in terms
correct.
of the schedule. Right. In terms of the contractors now, in terms of their efficiency, in terms of their trucks being in order, in terms of the dip tray being in place, in terms of the whole service being provided, are the checkers sending in on a daily basis or weekly basis what areas have been cleaned properly or have not been cleaned properly? Could you deduct, prorated? I need information from all chairmen here, please.
Yes, we do that. All right. We have instituted a rectification notice as per the terms of the contract, and checkers were trained to do that. So if there is any variation, the checkers cannot authorize any change to the terms and conditions. All right. So if there are any variations to the terms and conditions, they have to refer that to their supervisor. In addition, we have a desk within the public health section where all checkers will call in the time of at different points along the scavenging route. So the people in the office will record that the truck has been at this point inspected at so and so time. So we try to ensure that the work is done in that way, right? If the service is done satisfactorily, I would say there has been a tremendous improvement given the constraints that we have. We have 18, how many areas? I can't remember, but we have 3 contractors, one contractor having about the bulk of the areas. And that sometimes poses a problem.
So your rating would be?
Sorry?
Your rating. Your rating?
I would say, yeah, fair.
Okay. As we in the back row, we'll have Sawo Daegu, Sawo Laventil.
Thank you, Chair. Generally, I will say that we could say satisfactory. Save and except for the Laventil area, we normally have some problems with that particular contractor. And we issue rectification and default notices. In other words, we cut you when you don't perform. If you don't discharge your responsibility to the Burgesses in terms of the collection of the garbage, we don't pay for that particular time that you've defaulted. All right, but generally, our health department is on top of the situation. And when that occurs in Laventil, what we do is that we send trucks and backhoe to ensure that the place we maintain a clean environment. So, but other than that, outside of that, we are generally okay.
Okay. Siparia?
I would think that we are pretty good at the garbage collection situation. I'd rate it around 7.5. There's always more that can be done. We initially had some issues, and we called in all the CSOs and the SOs in a meeting of the health committee. And that was a very expanded meeting and a very detailed meeting where the whole process went through. I think you described some of it. And that helped a lot because they realized that it was a very important that they report back in a timely manner as to the state of garbage collection, because the councillors were reporting what the people were saying in particular areas, and we harmonized that with that particular meeting. Then, of course, the contractors, the 9 of them, they are complaining and they are saying that, of course, the conditions of work and the cost of fuel and employment, the salaries have increased so much that they are almost, breaking even. That's what they say. But we continue to work with them, and at times we have had not to pay if we were not satisfied. But by and large, we are doing well, and the Petrotrin, the closure of Petrotrin, has put increased pressures on us because there were some areas in Santa Flora and Faizabad that was serviced by Petrotrin. Those were the company communities. And now the Superior Regional Corporation has to come forward and take, with the limited resources, to handle that. So we have had to build in-house capacity to assist with some of these areas.
Daegu Martine?
We have 5 contractors working in the region of Daegu Martine. Daegu Martine is a very lovely place to live. So you find we have an increase in population in the Daegu Martine region. There are areas where we have absolutely no problem. And there are other areas that we have problems. And I will tell you how these problems arise. There are areas where people don't want a bin in front of their homes. And that is causing serious problems because there are areas that new garbage sites are being created. And there are areas where people don't want no bins at all. And these areas, unfortunately, are the hilly areas where we need to have bins in the area that we can reach the people who lives on the hill. So we have a problem. I'm not going to say we don't have a problem. Where we have bins, people leave from all about. And I don't know if other regions don't have that problem. People leave from all about to dump, where we have the bare bins. So at times, sometimes, while we want to come down hard on the contractors, there really is an increase. And the old contract does not cater for that increase. So how I rate Daegu Martin, out of 10, I'll say a 6.
Any of the regional corporations here enforce the letter Act at any time?
No.
Quick answer, each one. You could go ahead, Daegu Martin. Enforce the letter Act. Have we charged anyone? Have we cited anyone? Have we?
I think in the essence of time, I'm hoping we can get that in writing because...
Mr. Chairman, there's a critical aspect to the public, because we're hearing of the different ratings that they are getting. And on a daily basis on the media, you hear a lot of complaints with regards to sanitation. So, no, but we can get it in writing, not a problem. All right, could I just go to my last question before we move on? Right, with regards to the development programs at each regional corporation, right? We have various sizes, we have various councillors for each particular region. So each particular municipality will receive their development program. How is it divided among each councillor electoral district? Is it equitably done? Or is it that a particular councillor area will get a particular amount from a different one? Quickly, please.
I would not say it's equitable, but what I say is based on the need. And sometimes you have to soften up to understand the need of other councillor, and based on that need, we'll give way. So it's based on. Well, in Daegu Martin, we don't have. We have.
Yeah, well, given the nature of Superior, consultation is the order of the day, because we have a very balanced council. It's just a slim majority, and we divide the money among the representatives, and the chairman's office gets one of those allocations as well.
Thanks, Chairman. I am not that fortunate to get an allocation as chairman, but the council will determine on the allocation based on the needs of the region, and that is how we do our distribution, because some areas are less developed than others, and as a result, we take that seriously into consideration.
Yes, sir. Ours is equitable, but not necessarily equal. We have one political hue, so we have no internal challenges as others may. So there is always consensus. But there is an issue that some areas are in greater need of others. So the formula isn't always a smooth one. And some councils will say, well, look, I need some additional, maybe I can make up for it out of recurrent with projects, small projects. But yes, it's equitable.
So we ensure that the region benefits.
That certainly, sir.
And one other question, unspent balances. How do you all deal with unspent balances? Like, for instance, I'd like to know your last year, how much funds went back to the ministry?
Well, I think we've been very vocal in Superior about unspent balances and very, very determined to get our unspent balances. We have about, the last time it was 4.5 million, and I think we are just about 5.2 million. We are fighting for that money, and the ministry has to send an audit team within the next week or two to confirm the existence of the money so that we could get the approval to spend it.
Right, and you will have projects in list?
We have projects lined up for that.
Okay. Daegu Martin?
We are in the process right now of waiting on the internal audit to check, to verify our unspent balance. We do.
You have a ballpark figure?
About 18 million.
18 million for 1 year?
No. For
several days.
Oh, okay.
The last time we accessed unspent balance was 2011.
Okay. Right. So,
the council resolved how they wanted to spend the unspent balances. Since we are pursuing an administrative building at this time, our unspent balances, all of it will go towards the remodeling and furnishing of that particular building. At this time, we have about 6 million that has already been audited, and I suspect about 3 or 4 million unaudited at this time.
and what period, roughly?
That could be from about 2012. 2012 to present.
Probably the corporations could give us the figures and also the amounts in writing.
In writing, yes.
And when you want to clarify, I have a question.
Yes, this is directed to the San Juan Laventille Regional Corporation. Now, in your submission, you indicated that the ministry seems to have been working counter the directives of the councils in that several new CEOs have been assigned to the corporation over the last 12 months. So, yes, can you give me your response? And I could also have the permanent secretary after respond to that. Thank you.
I think I tried to make it very clear. Over the last year, that is 2018, we have had 5 CEOs. And certainly, if you have 5 CEOs, it will destabilize the operation of the corporation, because when a new CEO comes, you have to readjust, give that CEO an opportunity to settle, and that has been the problem. For this year, 2019, we are on our second CEO. All right, so
why, sir, Chairman, have you
really, we have no control. There was one CEO that we asked to be removed because we had a conflicting situation, and the others were removed by the ministry. I guess the permanent secretary might be able to guide on that situation.
Yes.
Madam Chair, I am glad that, sorry, Chair. I'm happy that Chairman Roberts indicated in his response that there was a request on the part of the council, because that happens from time to time. And of course, laws of natural justice, there would not be an automatic movement, but then you have to balance relationships, the relationship between the players. Of course, if you think about it, if there's an issue with a CEO and there has to be a rotation, it means that someone who is probably very pleased with their current arrangement would have to be moved. So that alone accounts for movement. In the case of the person, actually, it's this CEO here, and that gives you a sense of some of the challenges that we do have. Ms. Ramawad was holding on because in a temporary capacity while we facilitated the movement of the CEO outwards, but we had to provide a more long-term arrangement in Sour Laventille, and we moved her on to another, and I can't guarantee how long-term that is going to be either, because there are realities in the public service context with seniority and persons who are supposed to come into the system who are to assume. So that can change. And that is our reality. We are talking about persons retiring. We have had in one place a retirement. We have an impending retirement, and that is what we're working with.
Do you consider that San Juan situation as extraordinary? Do you encounter strained CEO relationships with the other corporations? Yeah.
I don't
Chairman,
think...
probably we should get the chairman to answer that question.
It happens from time to time. There's the feedback. And I just want to say that the first recourse is not to move around the persons, so that there would be some intervention sometimes at a level beyond myself, you know, and conversations would be had and so on. And there are times when the feelings may be mutual, and there would be times when there's a request. Of course, in the case of Daegu Martin, as an example, the person who was there and who was probably, there may have been no dissatisfaction, but there was an opening somewhere closer to that person's home. And in fact, a number of CEOs would have been eagerly wanting to replace the person who had retired. And Daegu Martin, the former person, was the lucky person, I suppose.
I would like to recognize Member De Freitas, please. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. This question is to Siparia Regional Corporation. With regard to the discontinuation of the financial management software due to duplication of effort and its demand for additional staffing, I'd like to find out, was there resistance from staff in implementing this computer-based system?
Chairman, I would like to ask the financial officer to answer that.
At the point in time when they tried to implement the software, I wasn't employed at the corporation, but the feedback that I would have received is there was some level of change resistance to the change, and additionally, there wasn't adequate resources in terms of the human resource in order to do the data entry, the additional data entry into the software.
So there wasn't enough. How much people did you need to do the data entry?
At least 2 dedicated members of staff.
And there's no way the corporation could have found 2 people to do data entry. So you scrap a program which, from what we've been hearing all morning, would have greatly reduced the leakage of funds that's happening at these corporations. And because you can't find 2 people to do data entry, you scrap that completely. So much so that just the Siparia Regional Corporation was seeing that they haven't had financial reports since 2013. What assurances can all of these corporations give to the population of Trinidad and Tobago that these types of leakages won't happen again? We are seeing a situation where there is a solution, and that solution is stifled and stopped because you cannot find 2 people to enter data, and you're telling me there's resistance to this. What assurances can you all give to the people of Trinidad and Tobago? Because it is the taxpayers that is paying for this, each corporation.
I would say for the Siparia Regional Corporation, we would intend to find the necessary resources in terms of the human capacity in order to do the data entry within. We currently have a special project where we have asked for additional persons on contract to fill vacancies, to do some data entry for another project that we have for Board of Inland Revenue. That would be to provide some information with regards to contractors and suppliers over the period 2013 to current. And that is the data, that is the additional staff that we are currently using.
So your assurance is that you're going to get the staff to put the data. So are you saying that you're going to restart this project?
We would have to approach council in order to restart that project.
When was the project started and stopped? What year?
I think it was started sometime, I'm not certain when it was started. I think it was in 2012, and it was stopped in 2016, 2017.
So I just wanted to indicate that this was before this new council came and the financial officer. And we did take steps to bring in a financial officer because of some of these issues. And I just want to point out, it would be remiss of me if I didn't point out that in the Municipal Corporations Act 2504 36 defines the chief officers of the corporation as CEO, CorpSec, treasurer, engineer, medical officer of health, and we are interested in the treasurer. And at 37.1, it says that a vacancy in the office of a chief officer shall be reported forthwith to the commission. And 37.2 says that a vacancy in any office held by a chief officer shall be filled within 3 months after its occurrence, failing which the failure to fill the vacancy shall forthwith be reported to the president by the mayor or chairman. And this is what we used. This clause in the legislation, 37.2, and wrote the president, indicating that there was a failure by the commission to appoint a financial officer. And I think this is one of the things that helped us to get a person in that position.
Members, we are looking at a 12:30 closing time. Yeah. No, 12:30, yeah, 12:30, but I'd like to direct a question again to Siparia Regional Corporation. You stated that the Finance and Allocation of Resources Committee recommended a forensic audit on the stores department. That is on page 6 of a response to question 14. Explain the circumstances which prompted this recommendation.
There was an issue with regards to forthcoming reports with regards to internal requisitions for items from the stores department, and I believe that is what would have prompted council to investigate further into the procedures within the stores department. In addition, they were concerned about who were the custodians of the keys to the stores department, as well as the procedure for the requisition of stores, the internal requisitions, and how persons would receive stores, items of stores, sorry.
Has the situation been improved or rectified in any way?
Well, there was a systems audit recently at the end of 2018, and we are still awaiting the reports on the systems audit. It was conducted by Ministry of Finance, and that was one of the areas that they would have covered.
Sure. Yeah.
Thank you kindly, Mr. Chairman. In light of the time constraints, I would want to ask the representative, the chairman or CEO or chairman, CEO, or corporate secretary of Penal-Debe Regional Corporation. In your information sharing to this committee, you indicated that you referenced numerous lawsuits against the corporation. Could you advise this committee what is the nature of the lawsuits regarding the monies owing and the law firms involved?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have had instances where we have 5 matters at the High Court where persons would have taken action against the corporation for drainage issues, several infrastructure issues, right? Some of which has since been resolved. Okay. At the High Court level, we have retained a company by the name, a firm, Harkisun and Company. We have several matters at the Magistrate Courts as well.
How many matters at the Magistrate Court?
4. Currently, we have 4 matters at the Magistrate Court, all which deals with municipal matters, which I'll say is blockage of drains, buildings, work of that nature. We also have 3 pre-protocol letters currently being addressed. And we have one other matter, a development matter that we are working on, and pre-protocol letters have been issued in respect to that.
And the law firms involved in all these matters?
At the High Court matter, we use the firm of Harry Kisoon and Company.
How many matters at the High Court?
5. Five currently at the High Court.
5 at the High Court and 4 at the Magistrate Court.
4 at the Magistrate Courts.
So Harry Kisoon and Company is the law firm in those matters before the High Court?
Yes.
And who is involved at the level of the Magistrate Court?
Tri-Law Chambers. It's at page 15 of the my submission.
All right. With regards to...
Yeah, actually, 1 minute, but just a question now first.
Sorry, Chair.
Is the Corporate Secretary an attorney at law?
Yes, she is.
In cases like this, will your Corporate Secretary usually give legal advice, or do you still have to outsource legal advice? Yeah.
The Corporate Secretary does provide legal advice, but sometimes because of the time and preparation and the complexity of the matters, we refer to external attorneys.
Thank you kindly, Mr. Chair. Just 1 or 2 more questions. How does the corporation proceed to secure the services, the legal services required? Do you all secure it through sole select, or you all invite law firms to bid? What procedure do you all follow?
We refer to persons who would have had experiences of this type of nature, of these matters, right? And we'll refer those matters to them for advice.
Now, how do you all procure the services of the... Because you said 5 matters are before the High Court, and Harry Kisoon and Company are in all 5 matters, and you have 4 at the Magistrate Court and Tri-Law Chambers. How did the corporation proceed to secure the services of these 2 law firms?
Well, based on the experience of these attorneys, right, and other matters in some of the other corporations as well, we just refer that to them.
So it's a sole select?
Sole select, yes.
Are you aware, Mr. CEO, that when you are going the route of sole select, there must be compelling and justifiable reasons for sole select?
Well, Mr. Chairman, I think in the cases when we are issued the letters, when the lawsuits, when we get them, we have limited time to respond to these things. Right?
Mr. CEO, I want to, based on the experience that I have, I want to caution you to be careful the direction you're going in. Because you might put yourself between a rock and a very hard place, because there are procedures and regulations in place, and a corporation cannot, or CEO cannot say, well, an action came up urgently, so because it was urgent, I did X or Y. That's how a breach develops. So I would want to caution you. But Mr. Chairman, I would want to ask the CEO one other. So is it that with regards to the 5 High Court action that you proceeded to employ the services of Harry Kisoon and Tri-Law Chambers? They were urgent matters that came before you or the corporation?
Yes, all these matters, all 5 matters came before us.
In an urgent way, and the 4 matters at the Magistrate Court in an urgent way that others could not be allowed to bid for those services to the corporation?
The matters that came before the corporation at the High Court was not, they were not pre-protocol letters. They were matters that were filed against the corporation. And we are given a time frame within which to respond, right? So we would usually take that to the council with the recommendation of a suitable attorney to represent the interests of the council in that matter.
So how long have these two firms been representing the corporation?
Well, only in these matters.
How long? 2 years, 3 years, 1 year? How long is the relationship?
Tri-law is 1 year. The Harry-Kisoon is approximately a year too.
My final question, Mr. Chairman, to the CEO. How long have you been the CEO of Pinal-Daby Corporation?
Just over a year.
Have you at any point in time utilized Harry-Kisoon Company Limited in your personal capacity?
Yes, I have, ma'am. So.
Chairman, there's strict rules. I would want to ask the permanent secretary. I want to ask the permanent secretary to advise this committee based on the response of the CEO whether or not such an action is acceptable. You are the permanent secretary, Ms. Daniel.
Yes, Ms. Daniel, could you give a response? So.
I will speak for myself because as I have indicated at the first meeting, our CEOs are accounting officers, so they are accountable. So I will speak for myself as an accounting officer, and I will say that where I have, as in the circumstances we just heard of, that I would ensure that I do not find myself in such a situation. It would certainly, particularly in the context as painted, if there is no procurement process involved, and if it is a sole select, particularly where because it's a sole select, it means that there may not have even been what is it? The tenders committee. So for myself, it would not happen, and it is a difficult situation to contemplate.
And yeah, and you remember in our first meeting, I also mentioned that we need a system in place to monitor the CEOs. And this is, I think, something we would have to look into. Yeah.
I mean, I would just end by saying the principle of accountability and transparency certainly would reject any such action taken. Because if a CEO has a lawyer in a private matter, how then can that CEO recommend and contract the services of that same law firm for the corporation? To my mind, it's wrong.
Well, there's light at the at the end of the tunnels, because soon there's the procurement legislation will be in place. No, and this is a question I would like to put to them. Regarding the creation of Yeah.
But Mr. Chairman, added also to the same point that my colleague was making, in terms of the other corporations here, because this is our second schedule with these municipalities, and it now came up. So it possibly might be good to get from the other CEOs if the same situation is happening. Again, in the interest of time, they could probably write it to us.
But one question, with this corporation, what is the estimated time frame for undertaking the necessary arrangements to become compliant with the Public Procurement Act? Because, you know, soon you have to get things in place. So could you, and all the, I need that answers from, in writing. Yeah, could we start again with Penal Daegu Regional Corporation? But Public Procurement Unit, the time frame necessary to, you know, to become compliant. So I'd like to as we were with Penal Daegu Regional Corporation, and we heard such startling facts brought up by Ms. Primus with the CEO and the sole, yes. And so I need to know about this procurement, the state of readiness for procurement.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have an existing tenders unit that operates. We have asked that the previous corporate secretary review the existing procedures in practice to make them compliant as far as possible with what is required from the new public procurement legislation.
Could I get a feedback from Daegu Martin Regional Corporation?
Thank you, Chair. At present, there is a tenders unit. There is a tenders unit that's functioning, and we engage in them in training. Both being that training is being conducted both at the head office, from head office, Kent House, and internally. And we are in the process of developing the procurement plan right now.
Could you give me a time frame, you know, when you plan to finish it? So. Okay.
Going to answer?
Yeah, could I get the time frame on that, please?
Well, right now we do not have the full complement of staff. However, we are going to look at trying at least about 3 months. All being well?
Okay. Yeah, could I get a feedback from Siparia Regional Corporation?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Like the other corporations, Siparia has a tenders department. But I don't know if you are aware, the procurement legislation, the entire legislation was not assented to as yet. It involves a number of professionals, like chief procurement officer, contract managers, buyers, and a host of other professionals. I am not sure if the PS could help me out here in terms of staffing the procurement unit and where we are, what stage we are. But as it is right now, my CorpSec is involved in training the existing personnel at the tenders department.
Could I get a response from the other corporations?
Mr. Chairman, we are in the process, the legislation, the procurement, the ministry is engaging us in that process right now. They have sent documents for us to be guided by. So we are in the process. We haven't identified staff or anything like that as yet. We will need some time to do that.
Yes, I see there's an appeal for help in certain corporations, which I hope you will be guided. And Ms. Ramdale would like to ask a question.
Sure. Just a quick question directed to the San Juan Laventel Corporation. In your submissions, you stated that an acting accountant, too, heads the accounting department and has obtained qualifications from CXC. Could you tell me how long this individual has been within the corporation and whether or not this individual received additional training in accounting practices?
She has taken up the position on the 27th of July, 2017. She has no formal training in the position, and we are really having a challenge with that in the absence of a financial officer.
So what is the intentions of the corporation moving forward?
The intention is that we are going to write to the ministry to see if we can get a more qualified accountant, because the situation at SAWA, we really need help in that department.
PS, you care to comment on that issue, please?
The advertisement for the position of financial officer is in the newspaper, so we encourage members, if you know persons, to have them apply. But I want to say that accountant officers in the public service, while they may have entered the system with 5 O-levels, they would have had a considerable amount of work experience in terms of public service accounting system. So I don't want the impression to be given that this is just a 5 O-levels person who doesn't know anything about public service accounts. Far from the truth.
Well, in this instance, this individual was hired in 2017, if I'm not mistaken.
Assumed at the corporation. This is a public servant, a public officer.
Uh-huh.
It's a public service position, so the person would have been assigned to the corporation.
All right.
Chairman. Chairman, we are dealing with the oversight and financial management at regional corporations, and there's 2 quick matters that I want to get from these corporations.
We have to be brief. It's 12:30.
And they can submit in writing if they feel they need to put an explanation. We spoke about scavenging. There are some corporations that have, in the true newspaper report, indicated lack of releases or releases not being on time to pay contractors, and because of that, scavenging contractors are downing tools. We had a case in Princestown Regional Corporation which was widely reported. If this is happening at other corporations, I would like us to be aware of it. You see Mr. Siparia nodding. Is it happening in Siparia? Put on your mic. Put on your mic. Because the public is complaining about poor scavenging service, but the truth is that many of these contractors are not being paid because the releases are not coming to the corporation in a timely manner. Are you experiencing that?
And Mr. Chairman, yes, remember that question was raised prior, and they have given their ratings and their particulars.
No, it is not. This is not with regards to the satisfaction of the service. This is with regards to financial operations. Are you getting releases?
I would like the ministry to give that response.
It has nothing to do with the performance. Yeah. It has to do with whether the Ministry of Finance is releasing the money to the regional corporations for them to pay their contractors, because contractors are refusing to provide scavenging service because of lack of releases, because they are not being paid, whether the service is satisfactory or not. We have reached to the stage where some contractors are just not providing service at all, and chairmen are scrambling and seeing what resources they could get from outside to assist. It's not a safe situation. You don't have proper gears and so on. So this is where I want to get the information. Perhaps the PS could give.
Well, thank you for giving us that question, and I would rather that in writing because of the essence of time. Yeah, sure.
Chair,
sure.
Just to say that if the example given, it was not a case of, while there have been instances of delays in payments, the Princestown issue was not a case of outstanding monies. Okay, just for the record.
Sure. Okay. Well, okay. So that was the last question given by member.
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, sure.
One question that we had on the last, when we had the last panel, it would be good to get it here. So there's a prime in writing.
Writing, okay.
Right, which is new contractors registered from 2015 to present. Right, new contractors registered from 2015 to present. Provide us with a list, please.
Well, we certainly heard a lot today: water damage, questionable hiring of staff, CEO, corporation dysfunction. You know, a lot of things we heard, and I guess there's plenty more, but we have run out of time. And in closing, I would like each of the, person from each of the corporation and the ministry, if they so desire, to give a brief closing remark. I would like to start with Ms. Jennifer Daniel.
It is my pleasure again, it indeed is, to be here. Once again, I am leaving with information that I did not come with and with work to do. Thank you, Chair and Committee.
Ms. Suzanne Hong, Chairman of Daegu Martin.
I too want to take this opportunity and thank you all for having us. And it was an experience for us, and I can tell you that an experience that we certainly learned from. Thank you.
Alderman Dr. Glenn Ramadasi.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It has been a pleasure coming to this very distinguished gathering. I believe that local government is about community empowerment, and we really would like to see more emphasis being placed on local government. Even as we head to the reform, it will give more confidence to the population that there is going to be substantial reform. And while it may be others to advocate that we are talking too much about inadequate, poor, and untimely releases, it affects our operation, the heart of it. Our creditors, the people who we call on emergency services, they become very hesitant to provide services because of untimely payments. We really need the Ministry of Finance to step up to the plate and to service local government in a much more timely and efficient manner. Thank you.
Alderman Anthony Roberts.
Thank you, Chairman. I just want to put on the record, notwithstanding the comments of our permanent secretary, but that the senior staff at our accounting department is woefully incompetent. And as a result, it is frightening. All right. Having said that, I want to express my gratitude for being invited here to express the position of our corporation, and we hope that we will continue to work together in order to satisfy the needs of the burgesses. Thank you very much, Chair.
Dr. Alan Sami.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, I think that this meeting today has exposed the lack of staff, and therefore, because of the lack of qualified staff at senior level, it must affect performance so that the public must know why performance is as it is. And simply because positions are not filled and therefore certain things cannot be executed. On a final note, however, I'm concerned that local government election is due this year, and there is local government reform, and I am concerned with the number of services that are intended to be passed to local government, and given that the current system cannot meet the requirements, how prepared are we, therefore, to meet those new burdens that will be imposed on us in going forward? Thank you very much.
So I thank you for your points, your knowledge, and in closing, I would like to thank the officials and the media for the attendance and participation, and thank the viewing and listening audience for the interest in the committee's work. And at this point, I would like to adjourn this meeting. Thank you all.